and watch him. So speaker view is what you can click to make that happen. All right, Art.
I think we always start out with a health update.
Yes.
I really had a tough go of the still off the soda, but real tough go of I don't know, just the proper foods, get it all together. They make me eat some of these fish oil pills. I don't know if you guys have ever taken these pills. I don't know why you'd make a pill that big. It's very big, and they're gross. And I don't even know why they're gross. I can barely just like get them down, but you don't really taste them. But it's just a weird texture that's sliding down your throat, and they're huge. So I got that one, and I got this other one that I got to put under my tongue, and it has a weird flavor to it that I got to do. So it's I'm falling off on my meds or my that kind of stuff. Also, my exercise has dipped a little bit. Anyways, that's just hold me accountable. So I'll get back on that after this group, I think.
Good. You can't back off now. You got 2 weeks. You got 2 more weeks till you get your blood drawn so we can see where you're at.
I went car shopping today. I'm finding that with my practice, it's they really try to get you high in there. Mm-hmm. They try to make you want to feel different, and they bank on that you're going to want to feel different. And I don't want to feel different. And I had a good experience today of putting work for a couple hours and then walking out on them. Yeah, we walked out on 2 today. Tomorrow I hope to walk out on about 6, and just to continue to walk out on people who won't give me what I want until finally I get the perfect thing. Maybe it'll work like that. Slip and get high. You never know. Good. Yeah. I think in the time and everything is going on, you know, the 2 biggest lessons that I've ever learned in this business and dealing with addiction and leadership and people involved in it, the 2 biggest lessons I ever learned both came from people in the program. And yeah, go ahead. And first one was back in 2013 or 2014, and I had a gentleman turn me on to Eckhart Tolle, and the way he did it was beautiful, and he made sure that he told me something that I didn't know, and one thing that we were in a meeting room together, and are you okay? We were in a meeting together, and we were talking about AA and NA, and there was a gentleman in our program, and another one hated NA, and one liked it, and they were trying to force it on each other. And then this gentleman told the guy that hated AA that he could just go there, and then he could learn to put his own mind down. And I thought that was phenomenal because I'd never heard anything like that somebody could take their mind and put it down. And the way he said it really inspired me. So I asked him, hey, where did you get that? And he told me about Eckhart Tolle, and I read it, and it's kind of inspired a case of mindfulness or whatever this program has led into, all the other things beyond that. And it came from that kid in the program that night. And we were heading a different direction before that kid. And it was very inspirational when he said that, and it inspired the program, and we got a lot out of that. The other thing was, you know, there was this kid here one time, and I was on a rant. I had come over to the big house to do group, and I was very angry, and I was upset at the behavior that was happening here. And I got done with the group, and I was talking to this kid, and Concha, if you're on, it would be your son. He was very brilliant. So if Concha's on here, I think she probably is. Concha had something brilliant to say. And after the meeting, he goes, you know, Art, negative reinforcement doesn't work. And I'd never really understood what that meant. And I had to ponder it for a little while, that negative reinforcement doesn't work. And then he kind of showed me what it was, you know, and this kid in the program kind of articulated to me that I was just pointing out bad behavior and kind of yelling at people. And it really wasn't something good. It didn't do anything. It just made people angry with me, and then made me more angry. And he just said negative reinforcement don't work. So a lot of the time, as we're going about this thing, I've told parents, and then I learned that it truly doesn't work. And then I learned other things don't work, like punishment doesn't work. And that was a hard one to grasp, that punishment doesn't work. And so negative reinforcement doesn't work. And then punishment doesn't work. And then also another one that it seems to go along with negative reinforcement was lecture. So we would lecture somebody about the behavior and where it would lead to and how that's wrong. Or then we would tell them about how bad they're being, negative reinforcement, or we would punish and give consequences. And that seemed like the only things in our kind of our weapons that we had to use. And that, for the most part, I think that a lot of parents have seen that after we take away negative reinforcement, and after we take away punishment, and after we take away lecture, what would you be left with? And I think that that was the question. So it ended up with a question. Well, if I take away all those things, what would we be left with? You know, I think that if you look around and see what goes on in the community right now, and I have one kind of quote that's been going on in my head all week. And I say it when I watch TV, and I see it everywhere. And I think, in absence of true leadership, the quote that I would say is, in my opinion, in the absence of true leadership, then change comes very violently and very dominantly. And so, you know, it's kind of inevitable that change has to happen, but in absence of true leadership, the way it comes about is very violent and very against, very kind of almost collision-like. And it's like, kind of, you see right now, what we're dealing with is change coming from against. So I want you to see, and this is a good, metaphorically, this works beautiful with parents and addiction. And I think this is the biggest question that people have to ask, is that you want to make a difference. And what is beyond these three forms? And there's kind of a fourth thing, change coming in the form of a complaint. So we have this idea that what happens is change comes in the form of complaining. Change comes in the form of lecturing others about how they should behave. Change comes in the form of punishment. Change comes in the form of dominance. Change comes in all these like violent ways of dominating another person or another group of people. And that's the way that we've figured out, and that's what we're left with. And I think that you can see what it's causing in our community, that it's not, I think that even that, when change comes in that way, I don't know if it's going to be true. I don't know if it's going to be true. It's kind of going to be forced, and it's going to be in a way, but I don't necessarily know if it's going to be true. And so what's beyond that is the question, and how does one kind of get on beyond that? I learned then that I had to find a way, when I want to make a difference in somebody's life, I had to find a way that I could take out this thing that was happening to me, because there was something that was happening to me prior to lecturing, complaining, negative reinforcing, or punishing. And there was a closing down to me, or a sense that everybody was against me, or that a sense that I was against them. So prior to doing these bad modes of change, these bad modes of making a difference, what would happen was I would first shut down. So the first thing that would happen was there would be a behavior that I didn't like, and then I would protect myself from that behavior. As I began to protect myself from that behavior, I began to feel a sense of againstness. And as I felt a sense of againstness, I then had a thing in my head that would explain to me how wrong the other people were. And it would do this for a continual amount of time, and it would build up inside of me until I had to let it out. And when I had to let it out, what I had to do is I had to complain, I had to punish, I had to negative reinforce and really explain to the other person what a bad person they were, or I had to actually like totally dominate and yell and violently make that forced change. And this would all happen because of the way I felt inside. It would happen because I felt insecure and I didn't feel safe. And I felt that the way that they were behaving was a threat to my very existence. So it first starts with that the threat to the way they're behaving is a threat to my very existence. And as it becomes a threat to my very existence, I want to punish those for the way they're behaving. I want to lecture them for about how they're behaving. I want to yell at them for the way they're behaving. And I want to negatively reinforce why they're behaving such a bad way and why that is. And so there was after I saw that none of those things really worked in affecting change, that yes, people might do what I say because they don't want to get punished. They don't want to get victimized or outed. They don't want to get yelled at. They don't want to get forced. They don't want to get lectured. And so people might kind of hide and do something that it looks like that I want them to do. And they might do all that or they might go deeper underground. That was the other thing that was happening. It wasn't true change that was happening. It was true change around me. So now what I did was when I lectured and I negative reinforced and I did this kind of thing, change might occur, but it would just be change around me. And then when I wasn't privy to what was going on, they went back to the way they were because they weren't really doing it because they saw that really the reason that I wanted them to change was some type of insecurity inside of me. And there, my thing was coming from there. And this is what I've learned with addiction. And I think that parents should understand this too. You know, when I say to parents, hey, take away lecturing your kid, take away punishing your kid, take away negative reinforcing their behavior and yelling at them, and take away complaining. And then I want you to go ahead and see what you have left. I want you to see what's left. And I will say that in your head, most likely what you came up with was silence. Because see, in absence of true leadership, change comes from domination. Change comes from that. And so how do we then get to the other side, kind of a beyondness of what is there? And let's talk about where true change does come from. And by the way, I'm here every week honored, but I'm not here to say that I've achieved this level of highness or something that I've got. Because if I truly think that I've achieved this level of leadership, then I should be down in Seattle doing it. But I'm not there yet, and I don't feel like I'm powerful. But I am powerful sometimes, and I do it sometimes, and I do the other thing the other times, and I do both. So I'm still there sometimes, and I'm working on it. But I want to say that what true change comes from is probably three other things. It comes from motivation. It comes from motivating others. It comes from inspiring others, and it comes from validating others. So true change comes from motivation, inspiration, and validation. When you can get to a place inside you that you're never against those that you want to behave differently. You're never against them. You're for the soul of them. You're for them, and you're not for the actions of them. But you have to be truly for them. You have to be truly for what you feel. And inside, you have to be approaching them from a place of calmness and a place of love that isn't protected, that's not against. And this is the work, this getting to a place inside of you where you can work in your relationships and work with other people, where you can actually inspire change inside them, when you can motivate change inside them and never be against them, no matter how poorly you feel they're behaving. See, that's the key. Because some of you might not see it. You might not actually see it because you've never been to a place when you can love somebody while they're behaving poorly. See, I've seen a glimpse of it, not always, but a lot of times I can have deep love for the soul of a human being when they're behaving poorly. And that's the only place that you can affect change from. It's the only place that inspires. It's the only place that motivates. It's the only place that it comes from. So I can just see very clearly out there that what we're dealing with is an absence of leadership. And in an absence of leadership, it's dominate or be dominated. It's complain. It's negative reinforce, be against, tell the other person they're bad, not try to understand them, not try to do anything, just be against. And we deal with that here too. We deal with people who really want change, but they form it in complaint or anything like that. So I think that it's a good time to see that this is a metaphor working with the relationships and addiction, which forces you to become a person capable of loving somebody that's behaving very poorly. And as you learn to love and love them deeply while they're behaving poorly, truly understand and truly accept. And that doesn't whenever we accept, that doesn't mean that you're allowing. It means that you cannot affect change from resistance. You know, if you're pushing against something, it still has you. And that's something that people don't understand. If you're pushing against something, it still has you. It has you dominated. It has control of you. If you're pushing against it, has control of you. And they're all, and that is something that people have a hard time understand. And so the way out of this thing is like enrollment, like being for something instead of against anything. You know, what we're looking for in an absence of leadership, all we have is against. Against is a great idea because anybody can do it. Against is obvious. Against is so beautiful because every knucklehead in the world can be against something. But the truth is, to get up above and beyond against and make a difference, it takes this thing inside of you called your insecurities, and you got to get rid of them, and you got to be able to stay open. And by the way, I've been in meetings of community meetings where I haven't been able to stay open. So I'm not saying that I stay open, but staying open means staying free and not covering up yourself with against. A lot of times right now I'm dealing with my relationship at home with Amy, and I try to affect change by lecturing her. I try to affect change by complaining. I still try because I'm not big enough yet for that one. And I know that's the reason I'm not affecting change. Not because she won't listen, not because she's wrong, because I'm not big enough. I'm not able to outdo that one yet. And so that's showing me the test of who I am. So she's needed in my life so I can figure out how to get rid of my insecurities, so I can get up beyond and be for her, and she can see the love that I have for her even when she's not behaving the way I want. The problem now is when she's not behaving the way I want, I think it's a threat to my very existence. So I start getting real small with her, and I start telling her how she's going to fucking ruin us. She's going to end us, you know? And then she's looking at me like I'm nuts, and she doesn't feel that way. She feels fine. So we get in a fight. And that's what's going on. So now I have this option. Doesn't matter, because people go, well, so I just should allow it? There's nothing you can do anyways. That's the problem. So what do you want me to do, Art? I just stop complaining and allow it? Complaining never did anything anyways. Yelling and lecturing never did anything anyways. So that's the thing that people just aren't grasping. Yelling, complaining, lecturing, it doesn't stop the behavior. So people always say, I'm just supposed to accept it, and just, it doesn't stop it anyways. Look, if we're against, we're pushing. If we're pushing, we're trapped by it. It's only when we see it in ourselves, only when we see this movement, only when we see that we are not capable as a human being of making a difference, because we can't do it from love. And if we know that we can't do it from love, don't try it. It's just you trying to dominate. And what you're going to do, as soon as it doesn't go your way, and you try to dominate, lecture, and they don't do it, what are you going to want to do next? Punish. So there's our thing. I'm going to lecture you and tell you how you should behave. And then when you don't behave, I got this bag of tricks over here, and I'm going to punish you with one of these. It doesn't work. It never has. Except we think allowing or not, if we just don't do those things, that we're allowing for it. Don't you see you're allowing for it anyways? Don't you see that? Don't you see it's happening either way? And so you see, unless you have total domination of a group of people, then the only other way to affect change is through love. And the only other way to be love with people that are behaving in a way that you don't want to behave is to be love all the time. And the only way to be love all the time is to be open. And that kind of leadership, if we can get there, if we can find someone, not saying it's always me, I'm saying I'm trying, and I understand this, but I can't stay there. Not always. And I'm saying, but that's the kind of leadership we're looking for, and that's what's lacking is any love. So we got people that are trying to change us from what they're against, and they're pushing us, and everybody's pushing each other, and everybody's against each other, and we're constantly there. And who's the leader that's operating for love for all of us? Who's guiding us and facilitating change for the love of all of us? People only want to care for the people that are with them. Forget everybody else. Forget everybody else. If you're not with me, I'll kill you because I love you. Because I'm love. That's not it. And so you see what's going on. And everybody's got to take a breath. We got to breathe, and we got to say, listen, it's fine. By the way, I don't have a problem with what's going on. I think it's gorgeous. I don't. Because if I have a problem with what's going on in the world, I'm here saying I don't have the power to get up there and lead yet. And if I don't have that kind of power, then I don't have the time to worry about it. I just look at it as beautiful. It is as it is, and I accept it. It's fine. But that may be the reason that I'm not out there, is because I haven't found it a way to just be for everybody yet. And if I can't find a way right now to engage in this thing and be for everybody, then I might hurt somebody. That I might want to punish somebody else. I might want to lecture somebody else. I might want to complain and say, why isn't everybody doing what I'm doing? And I don't think that's the way. And I never thought it was the way with addiction. Now, this is what we're learning in our families. We're learning how to love somebody who's behaving in a manner that we don't like. And it's beautiful. And it's a process of really finding calmness inside of yourself and seeing that when you really want to talk to somebody, you probably shouldn't. Because you have a need inside of you, of your body just hurting with resistance and anger and frustration. And we're talking about how we get can you imagine if you can affect change on your loved ones right now with no anger, no self-pity, no personalization? Why is all this stuff so personal? You know, addiction becomes so personal to people. This racism stuff becomes so personal. It's been going on forever. As far as we can see, it's been going on. But it's so personal, like it's only been going on for us. It doesn't have to. Addiction isn't personal either. And so, but when we shut down and we become against, it becomes so personal. It becomes so, and we need to protect ourselves from it so deeply. And we got to shut down, and then there's that feeling. So I really want people to see that there's these two kind of modes that I'm experiencing throughout a week, and that's against and for. And there's this thing when I am love, and I know I'm love, they're all right. Everybody's right. And when I'm open and loving, everybody's right. They're all perfect. And when I'm full of hatred and resentment and anger, they're all wrong. Everybody's wrong. And I'm closed down. And then, are you trying to affect change from everybody's wrong? Or are you trying to affect change from everybody's right? And that's the distinction that needs to be made. If I can affect change from everybody's right as they are, everybody's perfect, but let's see what we want here. Let's enroll. And that's the difficulty. So, wow, we have so for me, if I want to learn how to do this, it's staying open. And staying open means I don't protect myself with resentment or self-pity or victimization. I stay open, and there's a possibility that I might inspire. There's a possibility that I might motivate. There's a possibility that I might stay open and validate another person for their behavior rather than punishing them, rather than negatively reinforce. I might say, hey, that's great what you're doing. I felt that way at the car dealer today. I had two experiences. One dealer one car salesman I was against, and I felt against him. I felt he was trying to screw me. I felt he was up to something, and I was very leery of him, and I was against. And I kind of got it figured out I wasn't going to get my way, and it was very dominant, and it was very ugly, and I ended up walking out, and it wasn't the best experience, and I felt a little bit of satisfaction when he called me back in, but still it wasn't the way I wanted. And then as I went to the second dealer, I began to try to inspire him. I was laughing at his jokes. I was saying, man, you are good. You know a lot about this stuff. I was really validating him, hoping that, and I don't think he even really acknowledged that I was validating him. He didn't know. But I think that's the way to get the better deal. you know, he's going to fight for me, you know what I mean? And really, really want to not get me or be against me. So then it's like that. So how do I do that? How do I keep another person open? How do I stay open, and how do they stay open? And it's this beautiful little thing that we learn, that we're learning, and this whole practice of staying open to the possibility that another person's point of view matters, open to a possibility that their point of view is different than mine and it might be intelligent, open to the possibility that they're right. And that humility, or that what it is, that inspires, you know, that does something, I believe. And I hope that you see that, you know, you, from your week, you might see that you've been against somebody in a conversation, and you really had a feeling that you were against them and you needed to be right, and you needed to figure out, you needed to let them know they were wrong in some way, and you needed to tell them. And you thought that was going to be the way that affects change, but instead you pissed them off. And then you might see that that's what happens still. We're still at this infancy in our relationships where, you know, me and Amy, we're in this beautiful thing where we go against each other for a little while, but we've been together so long that at some point it breaks. So we fight and it breaks open, and we arrive at this place of calmness. And that's kind of how we do it right now. It doesn't start out very inspirational. It's kind of starting out very dominant and ugly, and then it breaks open and we reach this piece of calmness. And if you stay long enough and you don't shut down and do the silent treatment, if you don't angrily, she did yesterday go up and do the thing where she slammed the door really hard, wanting me to know that, you know, the door is slamming really hard. And I waited. I just waited. Usually I'll go chase her. Why are you slamming the door? Don't slam the door, you know. But I just waited, and then she came down. I seen that she got wisdom back to her mind, and that wisdom had come back to my mind, and we kind of got to a place, and it cracked open, and we made a lot of progress. But we're still not entering from a place of openness yet. We're starting from a place of closeness and then getting open. It's not the perfect way, but it's better. So that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with what kind of leadership makes a difference? Are we inspirational, motivating, and validating? Who do we got here? Kyle, yo. Come sit down. We're about to open up. Elliot, wake up, please. Sit up. Okay, we'll sit up.
The internet's not working.
Please. We're going to get into the family sharing portion of the evening. I bored Elliot to sleep. He's tired of hearing me talk. So here we are. And I think a lot of people have questions of what to do. And I don't know. I don't know that answer. It's you got to do what you got to do. I do say that I hope that whatever you do when it comes to these community stuff and whatever you believe or whatever your opinion is, I'm not against any of it. I'm working on staying from being against, and trying to stay open to all the possibilities and seeing it all as a possibility. Whatever you do and whatever you want to do, I just think that you should see a distinction between the violent, dominant way that we try to make change and the possibility that change comes through love and not dominance. And I think that I think we can really see that. And I think that people can really understand that intellectually, having addicts in their life. It's a very easy thing to understand intellectually, a very difficult thing to do. Because we don't understand how they're going to change if we don't tell them to change. That's that missing piece. How are they going to change if I don't tell them how bad they are? And I think that that's things that people don't understand. And I used to spend a lot of time telling people how bad they are and hoping they're changed. And luckily, I had enough experience that it doesn't work at all. And you know, maybe you only have one addict, so I feel sorry for you. You don't have enough, but I have enough, and I learned enough that telling people they're behaving poorly does not work, and it actually leads to more resentment. And actually making a difference through love is tough. It might be the toughest thing you'll ever do in your life to understand that process. But to remain loved means you're never insecure. And other people's behavior can make us very insecure. So now how do you do it? How do you get rid of your insecurities when other people's behavior is making you very insecure? And when it feels like a very threat to your safety? And that's the program here. That's what we're trying to teach. When you feel that something out there is a threat to your safety, breathe, sit with it. Say, I'm just insecure. There it is. I'm insecure. I'm not feeling safe. Okay. Is it real? Is a bear coming to get me? No. Is anybody attacking our house? No. Well, why does it feel like that? And it does. It feels that everybody's behavior is a threat to our very existence. It's not. And we have to retrain our mind that that's true. And you have to, in order to do that, you have to sit with this experience in your body when it's frustrating and it's feeling tight and it's, oh man, it's resistance. And that's when you want to try to go make change, but character actually means I make change when I don't feel resistance. I don't be a boss that comes down to the work floor only when everybody's screwing up. We all had that boss that only wants to come out and yell at us when we're not doing good. So he comes out and yells when we're not doing good, but doesn't inspire and validate and motivate. And we see that dominant way that we try to affect change. And then we see true leadership. And I can very clearly, not as a racket, not as like anything, but you can very clearly see that we cannot turn on the TV. We cannot find somebody making a speech. We cannot find anyone that's doing anything that sounds like leadership, that's enrolling all of us. Everybody's talk, anything everybody doing is divisive. And it's saying, at least all of you are wrong and I'm right. And there's a complaint about that. And that's what we're struggling with. And that might work. It might make some change. But I don't think it's true. I don't think it's the truth, change that we're looking for. The real change that everybody believes in, that everybody wants. The inspirational change that says, hey, I'm going to do it not to look good. I'm not coming down here just to look good. I'm coming down here because I'm inspired and I can't not. I'm waking up excited. I think that's the truth. And I think that's what we're looking for, but I just don't think it's existing. We just got against. So I think that we can really tie in the leadership that's going on in our community and what's happening and the war of against with what happens in our home with addiction and with each other. And I can see those two worlds colliding here. And I can see that in an absence of a leadership in a home with an addict, the home will get very escalated, very violent. Addiction will be a threat to our very existence. And people will respond accordingly. And there'll be a lot of lecturing, a lot of boundaries. A lot of boundaries. Here's my boundary. A lot of boundaries, a lot of lecturing, a lot of, if you do drugs in my house, you're out. And there it is. A lot of against. And don't you guys all understand deeply as families what it feels like to be against your loved one? What it feels like to have your loved one be a very threat to your existence and then operating and trying to affect change from that space, that violent space of against, that angry, resentful space that we try to talk to people from, that we always regret, that we always apologize. And that's it. So how do we become people capable of the alternative, capable of inspiration, capable of motivation, capable of when a person is in pain and suffering, a mother capable of looking at her kid who's throwing a tantrum and look at her kid who's throwing a tantrum and say, damn, I love you. Mm-hmm. Come here, honey. That's different. But we don't see that very often. We see a mother yelling at the kid in the store as if they're in some type of mm-hmm. behavior war, dominance. There's dominance.
Not getting a candy bar.
Yeah, taking away. You're not getting the candy bar now. No goodie for you. It's not very inspirational. Inspirational is seeing that mother pick up the kid and hug him back into calmness. And that's what we're looking for. But it ain't easy. This is the work of a lifetime. So let's open it up, Ange. Questions and comments.
All right, sounds good. There's a lot of people on tonight. We've definitely broken a record tonight with 90 screens. So this is your opportunity, guys. Questions, comments, sharing of your experience. We want to hear from you. Would love to hear a hello and say hello to any of you new people. There's a ton of screens, so I might miss you. So please wave your arms and like a crazy person. Who's first? I see Erica Corwin in the house. Hey. Hey, Heather Bentley, I saw too. Hey, Heather. Look at what you started, Heather. Look at that. Look at that. Good to see you. Biff's mama.
Terry Course, do you guys have, Terry and Marie, do you guys have a question? I saw you waving. No? You're just saying hi.
Hey.
Nice to see you guys.
Good to see you guys. Hey, Terry and Marie, is this your first time on Zoom or have you been tuning in?
No, I haven't.
No, we've had some stuff going on.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if maybe you just keep your camera off, but this is your first time on Zoom. Very good. Welcome.
Yeah.
Glad you're here.
Yeah,
Me too.
yeah, we missed coming to the solutions.
I know. Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Can you believe there's people out there that have never been to a normal solution group? Crazy, huh?
Oh,
They're
wow.
gonna be blown away. Good to see you guys.
Okay.
All right. Who's next? Who's got something? I see Judith in the house. Hey, Judith. Hey. Jeff and Sherry Hankemeyer. Hey, guys. Everybody's silent tonight, Art.
Well, I think
Who's going to start this?
I think, you know, I wouldn't have been able to even know what it felt like to be against another human being and personalized and resentful and angry. And I knew about that, but I didn't really know about that until I was 4. Until I arrived at a position where I could see somebody behaving very poorly and have deep love for them and deep feeling of acceptance for who they were and have no anger about that. That was a place where I arrived at a couple of years ago, where it was possible that I could only see up beyond what it's like to be for somebody that's hurting themselves, what it's like to be for somebody that's doing damage, or what it's like to be for somebody that's hurting in their own life, and have it not come and have you not take it personal. And there's a getting rid of something, this self-concern. And in order to actually do it, you have to get rid of this self-concern. And I think that that's where people run into trouble, is because the other person's behavior is very concerning to them because it has to do with themselves. And if you can get out beyond it for a second and you'll see a view of it, the possibility exists, and then you'll start striving for it. You'll start wanting to get there. You'll start wanting to understand it more. And it comes with the elimination of resentment, the elimination of insecurities, the elimination of self-centeredness, you know, to get to a point out beyond it with our kids, with our loved ones. But everything's this, you're doing this to me. And as we see that they're doing this to me, we become against. And it's a personal thing that we have, that it goes down. It's that seeing that the other human being isn't doing it to you. They're just doing it. And as you see that, the relief comes. They're not doing it to me. They're just doing it. And with that comes freedom. You know, there's this thing in spirituality that seems like they're all trying to get high. Everybody's trying to get high with spirituality, like another level of life or high. It's not. The spirituality means free. How do you get free? And then free of what? free of the past, free of the future, free of worry, free of resentment, free of anger, free. So it's only when we get to a place of freeness. And if you're not there, that's fine, work on it. I always didn't like that. I never understood when people said, be the change you want in the world. I didn't understand what everybody meant. I didn't understand that for a long time. But I do now. Because I see so many people wanting to get rid of hatred with hatred. I don't know how that's going to work. It's almost trying to stop drugs with drugs. How do you get rid of hatred with more hatred? How will that cycle end? Do you think that getting rid of hatred with more hatred will end in some positive way? It won't. It'll end with the people that change being resentful of the way they had to change. Forced, dominated. We cannot change hatred with hatred. So how do you be the change? You be love if you want people to be loved. But that's difficult. Everybody wants unconditional love, but who do you love unconditionally? It's so easy to say, and not love unconditionally like some goddamn obligation. Like I love them unconditionally, so I make sure I pay their bills regardless. No, it's a feeling of never against. Never against. Always for, I love them, even when they're hurting themselves. And that means that you look past the this and that, and the belief, and the opinion, and the action of the person, and you look and you love the soul. And you see it. No matter what they're doing, you're loving the soul of them. So you can never get angry with them. Because you know there's a person in there trapped. And this is deep. This is the stuff that I never understood until you can get a glimpse of it, just a little glimpse. And once you get that little taste, it's like caviar. It tastes so good because now you're going sort of a different direction of real, true acceptance and true love of other people rather than this direction of more hate, more anger, more isolation, more selfless, more selfness, more opinions, more beliefs, more this way or that way and shoulds and shouldn'ts. And then you live in a world of ought tos and should and shouldn'ts. And there's just anger there. And that's just where we see it. There's Chris and Lori waving their hands, Ange. Yeah.
All right. Hey, guys.
How you doing?
Hey, you're up.
Yeah, so, I you know this, but for people that might be newer on here, you got to be careful that you don't confuse love with enabling somebody's addiction. So sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to say, no, you can't do drugs in my house. No, I'm not going to give you money so you can go do drugs elsewhere. And sometimes that's the most compassionate thing. So when you're saying you need to treat your addict with love, that doesn't mean love in a way that's could end up killing him because you're giving him the means to keep using.
Let me, I don't think.
So build on that a little bit.
Okay, but I want to be clear that I don't think love has anything to do with action. Like our actions are irrelevant here. Let's just say that love has to do with how you feel inside at the moment. Whether you're open, whether you're protecting yourself, or whether you're closed and against. Let's say that you're operating from, you can't do drugs in my house, but you feel closed and against them and personalized like they're attacking you doing drugs in your house. And that's that againstness. Now, there's a possibility that they could be doing drugs in your house and you could be very open and loving and then do the same action of telling them they can't do drugs in your house. So for me, it looks like deep sadness telling somebody they can't do drugs in my house. Like, I'm sorry, man, you can. There's a calmness inside of us in which we get to a place to be able to do that. There's a no meanness to it. There's a no against to it. So this is I want to make sure that everybody's having a clear distinction of whether you are love or whether you are hate before you're operating. And it takes deep honesty to say whether I'm love or whether I'm hate right now. And people try to con us. People try to say that they're love when they're hate. And we can see when somebody's anger and hate and frustration and then trying to say they love us. And it doesn't work. And this is a different transformational thing. This is like getting to a place where you are love, but your actions are maybe not what the person wants to hear. And that's fine. But I think that that's the key, is that people can tell when we're asking them to change from love, and they can tell when we're asking them to change because they're protecting themselves. And they don't buy it. They just don't buy it. So I want to be clear that none of this thing tonight has anything to do with your actions as a human being and what we do. It has solely to do with where we do it from. And it's not anything to do with the particulars of how to treat a drug addict or the particulars of how to go to Seattle and which side to take. It has to do with whether you are calmness, peace, and love inside and can be for another human while redirecting action, or whether you're trying to redirect action from your own resistance and hatred. Okay.
Okay, so can I have a follow-up to that? So, a lot of times that hatred or that anger is rooted in fear. You taught me that. And so when you're dealing with a loved one in addiction, you're afraid. You're afraid they're going to OD. You're afraid that's going to be their life. You're afraid that they're going to jeopardize your reputation in the community, that they're going to jeopardize your reputation as a parent. And so you have all these fears inside of you that then end up coming out in anger and in frustration. And I know from you that you just can't help anybody when you're in that space.
Right. That's right. And it has to do, the worst part about it is it's never really, they're never actually, when I see people deal with addiction, it seems as if when there's a real threat to somebody, there's all this non-action. The real threat is at 3 a.m. when your kid's in the bedroom shooting up heroin. That's where you should be concerned. That's where you might want to be looking out for death. And I see no action in those times, but then the action and the fear and everything come up in a conversation where that's not going on. It's like, the kid says, well, I'm not going to go to treatment. And then the mom says, yes, you're going to treatment. And it turns into some war. And there's no threat there. And then when the threat is real, when somebody should be kind of like freaking out, I don't see them freaking out. So the point is, we come from that anger and resentment and everything when we feel there's a threat to our very existence, to our image, to our reputation. I don't think we're even good enough to know when they're in danger. I don't think we've gotten beyond ourselves to even see when that happens. And it takes getting out beyond your own resentments, your own self-centeredness, your own reputation, your own looking good. It takes getting on beyond it before you can really protect the drug addict. I mean, really, So again, I think I want to, when you are against, and there's some indicators when you're against. There's this voice in your head that's building a case against them. It's building a case against them and why all their behaviors are so wrong and you're righteous. And there's, when that goes down, there's a for them. Like, what could I do to look out for them? What is best? What is the best thing to do right now? And that comes when you're for them. What's the best thing for their life right now? What do I have to do? The hard thing that's best for them with calmness. What's best for them? And that you have to get this against stuff out of your way. So there's a clear distinction, and I live it. I know when I've put up the wall and I've shut down and I've gotten against, and I know when I'm for. And when I'm against and put the wall up and I'm protecting myself, I am a dick. I don't get very good results. That's just, Okay, but
I
yeah,
love Chris's laugh.
who's next?
All right, who's next? I saw Candy in the house too, Jesse's mama. Hey, Candy. Good to see you. It's been a long time.
I thought you were talking about my sister. My sister called me today from Winco and said she was having a panic attack and needed to talk.
Hi, Candy. Say hi.
Hello.
She said, "Why am I having a panic attack?" And I said, "Well, because you're in Winco."
Yeah. Right.
That's a normal response to a human being being in Winco.
That's dumb.
Winco is a magical place.
Yeah.
Had an awesome.
Okay, go to kid.
Yeah,
Go-
Candy, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts?
Well, Art's definitely right. The time you really need to be concerned is when they're actually using, like, that's obvious, but it's not the, I've tended to avoid that. I don't know why. It's, you know, I have the tough conversations when maybe it's not appropriate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sadly, Jesse's using again.
So, where's the app?
He has been financially very successful and working quite a bit. And so he bought some property, paid cash for it, and he's living on the property in a tent. Yeah,
You got to ask him to come see me.
I know.
Well,
Yeah. I know you reassured me he knows the right things to do. Yeah, and so do I.
he'll come see me. Just say, "Go see Art. He wants to talk to you."
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Jesse and that dog. They love
Yeah.
Call me anytime, Candy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good to see you.
You too.
All right, who's next?
You know, I want to make sure everybody's okay with not understanding what I'm talking about. And I get it. And this came through an evolution of 9 years. Not that we're at some certain place, but it did come from a long process of understanding this. And if you would have talked to me about it years ago, I couldn't understand it. And I didn't understand how lecture wasn't effective and how punishment wasn't effective. And I didn't understand that. And, you know, it's only when you can get a glimpse of really using other people's behavior. Right now is a great time. I mean, if you can turn on the news and watch, you'll have to breathe through it. You'll have to see how insecure the news can make you. You'll have to see how insecure everything can make us in this time, and how those insecurities can lead to just anger over the news, anger over to a particular group of people, and whatever group of people you're against right now, whatever group you feel against. You know, I know there's everybody on here has a different viewpoint, and everybody's against somebody else and thinks that they're right and the other people are wrong. And it doesn't really matter what side we're on at that point. I mean, it's just against, and there it is. And I think that, you know, and if you just got upset because I said doesn't matter what side we're on, then you're not really understanding what I'm saying. Because I'm not saying I'm on a side, and I'm not saying I agree. I'm just saying it doesn't matter because it's against. And if you push against something, it still has you. It will always have you. Push a mountain, you'll be powerless. And the only power comes from when you put your hands down and quit pushing. And that's what we're trying to teach. And this pushing against will always have you trapped. If you're in your relationships with your spouse and you feel against, I think that that's the clearest. Sometimes we feel so against our loved ones. And we feel right, and they're wrong, and we run with that. And then we get to the point of the conversation, and our job is to be against their behavior and for our own. And We don't inspire them to change. We don't motivate them to change through our own behavior. It's kind of a stalemate in all of our relationships. It's across the board stalemate. And everybody's saying you should change and then you should change. And that's it. And there we are. And there's this kind of illusion that we're all living that if the other side changes, we will be happier. And it is a complete illusion. Because as soon as the other side changes, I don't know if that will cause happiness. I don't know if it will. I think you'll find something else to be against very shortly. Have you ever not been against something? Have you ever not felt there was a group of bad people?
Could you try again?
I really love it. You know, what is the topic of conversation tonight at dinner? Well, me and my group will be talking about the wrongness of another group. Well, what happens if somebody comes and doesn't agree with us? Well, they don't come to dinner next week. They're out. And that's what we do. We sit in a group and we talk about the wrongness of another group, and everybody finds that enjoyable. And so we get together with people that are like-minded and have the same thing. I saw somebody's thing. It said on Facebook, it said a meme. It said, I saw somebody that didn't agree, that had an opinion that I didn't agree with, and I just scrolled by. That's what it said. And I thought to myself, I bet you didn't. I bet you didn't. I bet you angrily scrolled by and said, fuck them, I'll never go back.
They made a post about it.
Yeah, they made a post about it. Like, that's what we should all do.
That's right. They're superior. That's right. They were showing their superiorness by posting, saying that.
Yeah, now they're against people that don't scroll by. Oh, God. It doesn't end. And here we are. You know?
And I want to say for anybody new out there, particularly for you guys, you know, you're walking into an ongoing conversation, so it can be really confusing. Like, you're like, wait, how can they help me and my family? How can they help my loved one? So I just want to really encourage you guys. The first step in the process of us working with a family is a consultation. If you have not had a consultation, and that's for mom and dad, that has nothing to do with your loved one, you know, your child in addiction. That starts with mom and dad, or if it's a single parent, whatever, it's the family members. And that just allows us to sit down and kind of get a foundation to working with you. So we have somewhere to go and a starting point. So please reach out to me. You can call me, you can ask questions, get more information. But I just would hate for you to walk away from this, be your first peek in, and then you be like, this doesn't apply to me. I promise you it does. So just stick with us and reach out so I can talk more and share with you a little bit more. All right. So who's next? Oh, hey, Cheryl Temple. We get to see your face tonight. Yay. I'm trying to unmute you. It's not letting me. Can you unmute yourself? Hey, Cheryl.
Is that working?
Yeah,
Hi.
you bet. Hi.
Hi, Art. How are you?
Cheryl Temple.
Hi. You know, this lecture, if we remember back, I don't know, a year, maybe 2 years ago, this really kind of dovetails into Art's lecture about not hating them, not enabling them, but going right in the middle and loving them. This to me sounds like another version of that lecture, or another way of looking at it, or maybe an expansion of that lecture. So
well,
that really helped me a lot.
Killing me calling it a lecture here. I don't. This was an inspirational speech. Yeah, there you go. Yes.
That's not such a bad thing. Sorry, not for me. But to me, you're just explaining it in a different way and a bit expanded, and it's really, I think, very valuable, and it does apply to everyone who's listening.
And I think that if you're sitting here confused on how you would be for somebody who's behaving poorly, then you need coaching, and you really could use some of you really have a lot of work to do. If you're confused by it, you have massive amount of work to do. And I hope that you raise your hand and ask the question, because somebody might be on here with deep anger and resentment coming from that space, not understanding what I'm talking about. On the other hand, somebody might be on here who's a deep enabler and who doesn't know how to help without helping, who doesn't know how to help without doing for. And that's baffling. How do I help somebody without doing something for them? So that's baffling. And how do I help somebody without punishing them? And it's really a concept that I didn't understand a long time. But how's everything going, Cheryl?
Good. Casey and Emma live about a block down the street. Casey has a fabulous job. She's making a little money. She's a good mom. She's doing well.
It's a true honor.
It's not perfect, but it's not supposed to be perfect.
No, it is what it is.
It is, and it's good. It's generally good.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Go,
Ray.
Casey, go.
Yeah, oh, she is.
Awesome.
I'm a voyeur on there. I don't comment, but I follow.
Oh boy.
Opened up my likes though. I used to be very hesitant with giving likes. I like a lot of stuff now.
I've noticed. I'm like, oh wow, Art thumbs that up. Wow.
Well, it's free and loving with my likes. It's not
All right, who's next? I'm coming around.
Yeah.
I'm looking for your arms.
Just wants me to validate them. I don't like that. Oh, now I feel love though. I like it.
Angela Guadalupe, unmute. Let's see if I can unmute you. I cannot unmute you, so go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, I think I got it.
Hey, hey.
How are you?
Good. Good to see you.
Good to see you. A question for Art on the, I don't feel like I resent my addict as much as I fear for him. How do I deal with that? How do I get past that fear? I
want to open up to a possibility.
Okay.
Let's think it might be possible. And by the way, I'm not here to. This ain't the way it is. I'm just saying it might be possible that we lack the capacity to fear for another human being. That's just a possibility. Just be open to it. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying look and see that it might definitely be possible that that's just not true, that we could fear for another human being. And by the way, if you could, we have a thing in our head that's called a self. And it is there to protect us. And it is there as a kind of an operating system that protects us from threats. It isn't there to protect other people from threats. It is there to protect us from threats. You know, it developed, like the voice in our head developed because it said, like, run, dummy, there's a threat. And if we didn't have a voice in our head that told us to run, we wouldn't have ran and we would have got eaten. So we've developed and evolved this self to protect us. Now, only when you can see it that way is the possibility for growth exists. Because see, if you cop out and you say all my fears are for other people, well then all of a sudden you can't grow. You can just sit there and be off the hook. But really to look at what is making you upset. When you get upset, if you take a look closer, what you're going to find is that their addiction is threatening your peace, your happiness. It's threatening your prosperity. It's threatening your health. It's threatening your reputation. It's threatening the way you look. It's you getting the short end of the stick. You getting, and if you can only see, until you see that, you will not be able to eliminate that and get that out of the way. You see, these guys' addiction, if it was like okay with me to come over here to the big house and yell and be angry, and they go, well, why are you angry? And I go, because I'm so worried for you guys. I would be selling them a load of bullshit that is unsellable because they're going to look at me like I'm nuts. I'm fine, Art. You don't need to worry about me. But what they're actually going to see is a guy who's over here at his program worried about what people think about his program. So now I used to get very angry because I was concerned with the way, there was always this day that I was concerned with as I was operating the big house and somebody relapsed. There was this voice in my head that says, what are they going to think of my program? And then it really led me right down the road to me being broke. Oh, well, this kid relapsed. What are they going to think of my program? People are going to stop coming. If they stop coming, I won't have any money. If I don't have any money, I'm not going to eat. And I'm going to fail out of the business. And that quickly, I was upset because of that. So if you look closer and you see that it might not be possible and it's just open, because I don't want to offend anyone, because I know everybody's so fearful for their loved ones, but I don't buy it yet. Only when you could get rid of your own fears would it be possible to be fearful for somebody else. Truly. You would have to get rid of your own fears before you could fear for another human being. You would have to have no fear of your own, otherwise your own fear will get in the way of the fear for them. So to try to sell me on it, I'm never buying it. And I'm not buying that people get upset because they're scared for another human being. I believe that people get upset because they're scared for themselves first. It's a threat to our body tightens and our adrenaline rushes to what? To protect us. It doesn't rush in to protect somebody else. It rushes in to protect us. It's fight or flight. That's what it is. So when you're operating for fight or flight, and trying to tell me that it's because you're fearful for somebody else, I'm not buying it.
That actually makes so much sense.
So you have to first, hold on, we have a question here. Elliot's got a question or a comment.
Yep. Wouldn't your emotional attachment to someone and you're losing them because they're an asset to your life also
That's right, but it's still about you.
I mean, yes, but it's not necessarily just because they make you look bad.
Yeah, well, you look deeper, it might be. But Elliot's asking if our emotional attachment to other person has a, yes, that's true. But it's still about us. There's still a story in our head. I'm getting gypped.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting gypped.
Yeah.
They're going to be gone and I'm going to miss them.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the fear.
You know?
I don't care. I don't care so much about who knows I have a son as an addict because I talk about it all the time. But the fear of losing, I think you hit the nail on the head there. The fear of the heartbreak that I'm going to have to go through if he does.
Yeah, but it's still always to protect ourselves, you know?
Yeah.
I think we got to, I think the order, when we started this thing and when we've done some of this work, a lot of our work came and it opened up and cracked open when we came up with when Warner Earhart came up with the phrase. And Warner Earhart said that as human beings, we need to become authentic with our own inauthenticity. And until a human being starts to become authentic with their own inauthenticity, none of the work's being done. So what I mean is I had to really become authentic with my own inauthentic cover-up. And my inauthentic cover-up of anger and frustration and saying that it was because I care about the other person. It was only when I got open to the possibility that it was because I was about myself that I could be for others. But I had to get rid of my own self-pity, my own resentment, my own anger, my own fears for my reputation. I cannot help somebody if it means anything to my reputation. It has to mean nothing to my reputation. Operating with deep concern for your reputation with no concern for your reputation. So what does that mean? It means I'm only concerned with the task at hand, which inevitably will improve the reputation, which I am concerned about, but in the moment, never concerned with my reputation, only with them. So tough. I remember operating and trying to help somebody with deep concern for my reputation at that moment. And I really wanted to prove how smart I was, and people didn't really like that. So Angie would take the calls after we were done. He was a real asshole. I've gotten better as it's gotten time. I'm not there, but I'm freer than I used to be. Like I said, this is about freedom. getting my own fears out of the way and getting free of those. Feeling secure in who I am before I can help another person. I think a lot of people try to feel more secure about who they are by helping other people.
Yeah.
Rather than waiting until you get to a point where you feel totally concerned. You know, when you feel totally unconcerned with who you are as a human being, it's not as motivating to help other people. But when you feel real insecure with who you are as a human being, we're highly motivated to make other people change. But when you feel real secure, you might want to watch some TV. You might want to just go for a walk.
Yeah, do that. Do that.
So what I'm asking, Angela, is like, here's how you tell if you're scared. You're upset. And then there's where the work is. So when you're upset, do you attribute it to their behavior and con it off and say, I'm upset because I'm scared for you? Or do you look into your own insecurities in that instance? Do you look down to the body and feel what is going on with you in your body? Do you feel your own adrenaline? Do you say to yourself, wow, there's fear. There's insecurity. Ooh, there it is. Or does your mind go right to their bad behavior and try to sell us that your mind is now concerned for them?
Yeah.
See, the mind takes over when the body's scared, and then the mind tries to sell us some bullshit that it's about them. But it ain't. It's about them changing so you don't get scared again. But that ain't how change works. Difficult.
Man,
Yeah.
I can totally get this so clearly. And I also recognize that I think I get it more clearly now that Devin is gone, because I don't think I would have, I don't think your words right now, I don't think I would have been able, they wouldn't have been able to break through while he was still here. So if I'm in Angela's shoes saying what Angela's saying, I think I would be really stuck right now. And it's like, it just like came over me like a whoosh, like such truth in everything that you just said. But it's interesting recognizing that I don't know if I could get it if Devin were still here, but I see it plain as day that that's such truth there.
The only thing not learn this intellectually. It's to feel your body from a moment-to-moment experience with your loved one who's difficult. To feel the body and to feel the adrenaline, to feel the rush, to feel the muscles tighten, to feel the fear in the body is the only way through this. And you have to start experiencing that. And if you don't experience the fear in the body and experience what's going on as an experiencer, and you let it go to the mind will blame, and the mind will con you, and the mind will trick you, and the mind will tell you that it's all about them and not about you.
Mm-hmm.
And you will not be able to understand this intellectually because you won't see it. It'll happen too fast. Only when you focus on the body does this experience slow down enough where it doesn't get to the mind.
Okay.
But if you keep it in the mind and try to understand it intellectually, you're screwed. You never will.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Hey, Denise, did you have something?
She does. Whoa.
Good. I was trying to unmute you. Can you unmute yourself?
I was just going to kind of add to it a little bit as far as that unconditional love, you know, we all have, and then the fear. For so long, I always said I feared for my son, but it, like Art said, it wasn't fear for him, it was fear for me and what it would do to me. And finding that place, which took a lot of time of being with you guys to get to a point where I could unconditionally love him, because he's not in a good place right now. But I need my kid and I love who he is, and to be able to spend time with him, which I did this last weekend. I went and saw them, and to just live in the moment and know I needed to be with my kid, and he knows he needs to know that he's loved no matter what his choices are. And he knows. I don't have to tell him that he's making a choice I don't approve of. He knows that. But it just, I think if everybody can get to a point where you can just enjoy spending time and letting your person know that they're loved, they know what your thought is. If they're making a choice you approve of, they know that, but sometimes they just need to know that they're loved. And you don't have to enable them to do it. You don't have to hate them. You just have to live in the moment and enjoy being with them.
Such a fine line though, isn't it?
It was hard. Don't get me wrong. It's hard. I went there and it was this battle to sit there and go, I just have to live in the moment and enjoy the moment with them. And it was hard, but you know what? When I left there, I felt good because I didn't judge and I get to take away and call it selfish, but I got to take away an afternoon with my kid.
I think that let's take it another step forward. And, you know, everybody says like, you know, I'm afraid to be lost and I'm afraid to, even worse, I think it's, what does it mean if I lose my kid? And I think if you look closely at what it means, we've got to create a story. And the worst thing that all of you are fearing, and, you know, I mean to assume, but look at it and say, maybe it's possible that the worst thing as a mother that you could be is bad mom. And then people say, well, if I lose my kid, that makes me bad mom. And I think people have to negotiate that fear of being bad mom, bad dad. And I think that that's a tough one. And that's a tough fear, that if I lose my kid to addiction, it means that I messed up. I did something wrong. I didn't do enough. I did that. And that, what it means is a slippery slope of fear. And I think that that's possibly one of the fears that we're all contextually operating under. It means bad me if there's a loss. And that's a contextual fear that dominates us.
I think there was definitely a time where one of my fears was I was going to feel or have an appearance of a bad mom. And that's back in the day where I wouldn't even tell people my kid was an addict, you know, because if my son's an addict, what did I do wrong? And I truly don't feel that my fear of losing my son would have anything to do with anybody thinking I'm a bad mom. I'm very open, and if people come and talk to me about addiction and they don't, I'll educate you on what addiction is. It's not me. I did everything I could, you know,
No, I wasn't even suggesting you.
I know, I'm just saying, but I think, I don't know, I think the fear for, at least for me, of losing my kid is truly just the loss, the emptiness that I fear it would leave in me. That's what it is. It's not what anybody else would think. I don't give a crap what anybody else thinks of me anymore.
Talking about a fairly involved process that you went through. And we're talking about a process where you went through and disentangled from enabling, and being in the same boat. So let's not, I want to make sure that other mothers and fathers on here aren't getting the wrong impression, because like we always say, addicts like snowflakes. There's no case that it's a thing. And so, you know, as we're speaking here, and you know, I think that if some people have went on over to their kids' place and they're using drugs and they spend the day with them, it might be completely outrageous and the wrong thing to do. And I want to make sure that people understand that.
Yeah.
It might be outrageous shit you're doing to feel different. Now, I don't believe that with you, Denise. I know your situation. And so I just want to clear that up and make sure that other people aren't just going, well, she did it. I go down with my kid that's getting high. You know?
Yeah. And now, mind you, they weren't getting high in front of me. They did their best as an appearance that they weren't. I'm smarter than that, and I know they were. So, you know, they put on their role too.
I got it. Beautiful. Thank you, Denise. What happened to
you? Aggressive dog at work today. Got bit.
You were really going through every...
It's not my year.
Yeah. like this year is happening to you.
It's still yeah.
Like you're the poster mom for 2020.
I'm just, you know what? Your words stick with me every week, and I'm gonna have one hell of a next year because I'm going through a lot of growth this year. So.
Very good.
Addiction, both epidemics hitting you home as hard as it can be hit, and then a dog bites. All you need is some looters to come over to your house. And,
Oh, I need nothing more. Thank you. I'm good.
For a couple rioters, yes.
Nothing more.
So we have about 4 minutes left. If we have one more comment or question, we can take it. Otherwise, I'm going to give it to Art to close up. Do we have one more? Anybody out there?
I am taking testosterone every day, so I'm highly aggressive. Yo, Lynn was.
Okay, there we go. Olivia. Yep.
Okay.
There we go. Hey, guys.
Hi, my name's Olivia. Olivia's my sister-in-law. But Art, what you said tonight has been great. I mean, when you were talking about how everyone has had that shitty manager that only likes to come out when he wants to yell at everyone for doing a bad job, it's like you can tie that in not just with addicts, but with any relationship that you have where you're trying to like convince someone to, I guess, do something that you want to do, but like knowing that no one ever wants to like work for, get behind the guy that's screaming at them to do something different. But or maybe they will, but as soon as that guy's out of the room, then they'll just carry on doing whatever they wanted to do because that guy's a bad guy. So, but like when you can get behind like the person that you're talking to and get or approach it from their mindset and figure out what they want and what will make them like want to change internally, I think that's so much more powerful and long lasting than just like screaming at someone. So
right. We've got this very brilliant idea that when we want somebody to change, we tell them how they should. And beyond that, we seem to be out of ideas.
For sure. Change comes from within.
Well, are we okay? Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you.
What's your real name?
Jordan.
Olivia? Jordan.
Jordan.
Awesome, Jordan. Are we on for tomorrow night at 6?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Looking forward to it.
What's tomorrow night at 6?
Consultation.
Oh, I'm working tomorrow night at 6?
Yes, I got you booked up tomorrow.
Oh my God.
You're welcome. You better get lots of sleep tonight.
Every week, I'm employing the same employee. I'm employing people. And, you know, this idea is true. This change comes within thing. That's true. But I think that's true like it's true that everybody says to be nice, or it's true like it's true that everybody says be kind to others. It's good advice. Now, the practicality and what I'm employing, what our program says, is it says that it only comes when we begin an attribution process and we begin to attribute our upsets to not what's going on, not what's happening, but to our insecurities about what's happening. And only when the process turns inward does the change begin, when we question and we feel the experience of being upset, being tight, being adrenalized, to be angry, to be resentful, and we begin to see that it's all this threat that we start feeling and start understanding what's the same thing. Every time I'm upset, it's because I don't feel safe. And I don't feel safe because something in my image is threatened. My belief system, my reputation, my money, my fairness meter, my health, whatever it is being threatened. And that's causing this reaction inside my body to tighten. And when that happens and the body tightens and I feel threatened and I don't feel safe, Now, every time I'm getting upset, I had to sit with it and go, why don't I feel safe? What is this threat to me right now? Is there a threat to my very existence? And I had to process and sit with that experience. So this is an employment, you know, if we could quit blaming the world for how we feel. If we could just stop for a second, stop blaming our people and our relationships for how we feel, stop blaming the world for how, stop blaming some circumstantial thing that's going on, and really start seeing, you know, this world is perfect. It's 3.2 billion years of moments, and they're perfect. And I have nothing inside me that wants to disagree with that. I can see the beauty and the perfection of the world right now. And I can definitely see that when I'm filled with insecurity, they're all wrong. And when I'm secure, everything's right. And that is really suspicious to me. So this is every week, just in a different way, this employing human beings to take this thing that says, I can look at other people's bad behavior and difficulties are the practice, and I practice with the difficulty of the world to have it show me my insecurities. And if the world was perfect, if it didn't do anything we didn't want it to do, we'd never get upset. And we actually think that's the way out, that if we fight the world, push against it, somehow we're going to get to a place where we feel more secure. It's not going to happen. And the only thing we're employing here is this process where a human being begins to feel his inner experience from a moment by moment, day-to-day basis, seeing what happens inside their body and seeing what happens when they don't disagree, when they disagree with the current moment. And then knowing that the answer is just this agreement or this handshake with it. Just going, wait, how do I get back to this place where I agree? And I see it so clearly that when I'm love, everything's perfect. And when I'm hate, they're all wrong. And people think that the way to get rid of their hate is to make all those that are wrong right. But then the hate's still there. No matter what we do to make other people that are wrong the right way, we never get there. So you have to redirect this thing and see it. The way to actually see that you can be for the soul of a person and love them, regardless of their action. And actually look through the persons rather than the this or that's or the ought tos or the shoulds or the what they're doing and find it. And this isn't all the time. This is the practice of getting free. This isn't me sitting here saying, I'm this way. This is me sitting here saying, I try to be this way. This isn't me giving you advice. This is, I hope this isn't an election. This is the possibility that we can do this. The possibility that addiction showed up in all of our lives and is there to practice and show us our insecurities. And if addiction showed up in your life and it's not there to show you your insecurities, I think you're going to have a lot of difficulty. I really think that you're going to have a lot of difficulty. So please, this is the employment of the program. We have a program of now, a program of this current moment, this trying to agree with it, and then seeing where I lie when I'm not in agreement with it. What's going on inside me when I don't agree with the current moment. And this is the work for, I hope, all of us. And I hope that that's the way to be the change that we want to see in the world. And until we can get to that point where we can affect change with love, we should probably not try. It'll probably be very difficult. It'll probably end in a lot of force and a lot of dominance. And, you know, when we first started this thing, that's what we thought was dominant and force. And we've now came to the point where we affect a lot of change with love. And it's beautiful. And it's not always, and it's not ever, it's not perfect. And there's still need to punish sometimes. We want to get retribution. And we have all the same things. We're just better. We're just getting better as we go along. So once again, it's an honor to be in your guys' homes. It's an honor for you guys to be here. And I don't take it very lightly. And I don't really think it's it's hard for me to get in this place. But once again, thank you guys and enjoy the week.
Thanks, Art. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you again next Tuesday, same time, same place.
Sorry. Yeah.
I'm going to unmute everybody. It's
Maybe that was him right back there.
Bye, everybody.
Night, everybody.
Bye.
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 Bye, Alexis.
Bye, Bella.
Night, Angie.
Hi, Jean.
Hi, Angie.
Hi,
Nice
Jean.
job, Art.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi, Jean.
Bye,
Guys, have a good house. Have a good night.
Bye,
Hi, Ann.
Good night.
Sorry. I miss you guys.
Okay, how do I turn this?
Thank you,
Hi,
guys.
Becky.
Good night, everybody.
I'll leave the floor.
Where's Emmett? Where's Emmett?
Oh, where's Emmett? Where's Emmett? Have Emmett come say hi to Grandma.
Hi.
Oh.
That's my sister now.
Buddy. Hey, Taylor, your dad's on.
Okay, you're right.
Hi, Ken.
Hey, guys.
Good night, Janelle.
Oh, is the dog's name Mike? Mikey?
Bye, Belle.
Is that the name of the dog? The new big house dog. Good night, everybody.
Love you.
Good
night, everybody.
Jack.
Good night.
What are you doing?
Good night, Pearl.
Good night, everybody.
Oh, here we go.
Good night, John Boy.
Good night. Good
That's
night.
it. Good night.